Welcome back to another episode of the Knowledge Bomb. I'm Nick Fowler. Today we're going to talk about post-workout nutrition. Post-workout nutrition is essential for performance, for recovery, a whole bunch of different things. You should be taking time to make sure that it's dialed in and that at the end of every session that you are adequately refueling carbohydrates and protein. So let's talk a little bit about it. Let's talk about protein, carbohydrates, and fat and where they fit into your post-workout routine. First of all, avoid fat, right? Fat is going to slow down the absorption and hormonal reactions, right? So essentially when we eat protein, when we eat carbohydrates, we have a hormonal response. Insulin, glucagon, leptin, the kind of the list goes on, right? So think about food equals hormones. We don't want any fat. It's going to just blunt the absorption of things, and it's actually the one time where we don't want to slow things down. We want to be able to top off our stores as quick as possible. So we're left with protein and carbohydrates. Now, protein is pretty simple. I would just recommend a whey protein post-workout. If you're not lean and you're looking at leaning out, you could actually go with whole foods instead. For instance, chicken, or something like that, a lean meat. Whey, just a regular whey concentrate. Whey isolate is pretty standard. It's easy to get. You can get it most everywhere. Now, carbohydrates, there's a little bit more options, right? There are faster absorbing sugars, and there's slow absorbing sugars, right? So depending on the type of session you do and the type of person you are, you might want a faster absorbing or a slower absorbing. There are some pretty standard go-to post-workout carbohydrates. So we can start with, if we work backwards from game day, first of all, if you are going into competition, make sure all this stuff is kind of tested out prior to. But Gatorade is actually a really, really good post-workout. It's really easily absorbed. It's easily, accessible. It's something that you can replenish electrolytes as well as carbohydrates. So if you mix it with like a vanilla whey and orange Gatorade, you'll get like a creamsicle. It's kind of good. Sounds gross, but it's actually pretty good. So you can kind of try that out. That's probably the faster absorbing of the two. Now, Gatorade isn't probably the healthiest choice, but we're not in this for health, right? We're in this to win performance, so you can think about that. On the flip side of that, you can think about like a waxy maize. So like a waxy maize is something that is a little slower absorbing. And you can think about your body is going to take just a little bit longer to kind of take chunks out of it and then kind of assimilate that or replenish your glycogen stores. My favorite personally is a highly branched cyclic dextrin. HBCD. It's kind of the newest, over the past year it's become fairly popular. This is going to be really fast absorbing. I think it's one of the best supplements in terms of post-workout that you can take. It's going to help recover CNS, central nervous system stress. It's also going to replenish your glycogen stores really, really quickly. On average, we have about 400 grams available in muscles and about 100 in the liver. So we have about 500 in reserve. So if you come out of a really, really hard training session, maybe you've used 250 of that up, just making numbers up, right? So you want to, the faster you can replenish those sugars, that glycogen in your body, the better. So you want basically something that is going to be absorbed really, really quickly. So highly branched cyclic dextrin is just kind of my recommendation there. You can get it in a standalone jug from a whole bunch of different places, and then you can add it to your whey. I really prefer to have my supplements, and this is my recommendation to you, separated. The kind of all-in-one, the recovery, the refuel, like all these different brands, and they have the carbohydrates mixed with the protein, so it gives you a certain ratio, might just not work for you. If you get whey and you get your carbohydrate, you can add them together at whatever ratio you want. So let's talk a little bit about ratios. How much of this stuff should you be taking and when? First of all, you want to get your post-workout in within a half hour after completing your workout. I would actually wait about 5 or 10 minutes, right? So there's some metabolic stress going on right after you train, right? The gut is just not ready to kind of accept, it's not ready to receive anything in there. You know, the stress of training needs to kind of calm down a little bit before digestion starts to kick in. So wait 5 or 10 minutes, but definitely get it in within that half-hour window. I would look at 0.8 grams per kilo of carbohydrate and 0.4 of protein. So what that means is that if you weigh 100 kilos, 225 pounds, you're looking at 80 grams of carbohydrates and 40 grams of protein. So it's like a 1-to-2 ratio. That kind of works for most folks. Now you might want to go to a 1-to-1 ratio if you're a master's athlete or if you're not really that lean. Typically, the leaner we are, the more carbohydrates you're going to need for a whole bunch of reasons that I'm not going to go into. So if you're a lean athlete, a 1-to-2 works really well. If you're a hard gainer and really, really lean and someone who excels at metabolic work, then you might be able to go to a 1-to-3, but that's pretty extreme. So a 1-to-2 is kind of the sweet spot, I think. So if you think that 80 grams of carbohydrates post-workout is just too much, you know, look at what you're doing, figure out your body weight, go with that ratio as a starting point, and then kind of go from there. It's really the optimal time to refuel, to replenish what you've just kind of used is in that 30-minute post-window workout. So take advantage of it, make sure you dial in your protein, your carbohydrates, and remember, avoid fat.